So welcome into Boston has entered the chat. Huge news in Boston. Linus Ullmark traded to the Senators. B's getting a return. The Panthers are for the first time ever Stanley Cup champions. I'm George Balekji. He is Adam Pellerin. Adam, how you doing today, my friend?
Man, I'll tell you, what a night that was, huh? You had the Game 7 matchup between the Oilers and the Panthers, and then you had the trade with the Bruins, and man, it was hockey overload, and I can't wait to dive into it a little bit, George. By the way, welcome back from your international travels. I know you were all over the world, an international traveler, experiencing all of the fine things of life, so it's good to have you back.
Thank you, Adam. And I got to tell you, for me, and I'll get into it later, it was a joy to get that Linus trade as I'm waiting for my flight out of Toronto and then it getting delayed. And I get to watch the first two periods with a bunch of Oiler fans before I saw their tears leak out of the plane as we landed in Logan last night. But let's get into it. Let's bring in our very own Andrew Raycroft, of course, Bruins analyst here for NESN. Razor, as all you guys know him. Razor, Linus Ullmark to the Senators. The Bruins got Mark Kastelic and Joonas Korpisalo back, along with the number 25 overall pick. What do you make of this deal, and how do you feel the Bruins made out of this trade?
Well, I think the Bruins did a great job because they were in a position where they had to get rid of Linus Ullmark. It had lingered a year now, and certainly through the trade deadline, and it was getting to the point, a few teams left, a few options, and Ottawa seemed to be the best of them. So Linus goes there. They get a big forward who, if you look at the highlights, has fought all the heavyweights in the league, a centerman, move around the depth forward guy. The first round pick, of course, is kind of nice. It's no big deal. I think we've all heard me talk about the fact that late first round picks are what they are. You don't know what they can be, or it's a roll of the dice, and it's the Bruins from a previous trade. So they get that back at 25, make the scouts like PJ Axelson work a little bit harder here over the next week to figure that out. But the big one's Joonas Korpisalo, and him coming back, he was one of the coveted free agents a year ago, had a terrible year in Ottawa behind a terrible team, a terrible defense, and it will be interesting to see how that plays out over this week. The Senators held about $1 million, so it's $3 million for Korpisalo, which was about where they were going to sign a backup goaltender, whether it was 2.5. So that's right in that region. And can goalie Bob and the Bruins structure turn it around for Korpisalo, who was and has been a great goalie in this league?
So, Razor, surprisingly, a lot of discourse on social media with a Bruins trade. I mean, that's never happened before. There's never been any criticism of Don Sweeney and the moves that he makes. And I think, people are surprised at the return. You're thinking, okay, Linus Ullmark, a Vezina Trophy winner, Jennings Trophy winner, along with Jeremy Swayman, and the return is a goalie who had the year that he had, a no-name fourth liner who a lot of Bruins fans aren't familiar with. And yeah, it's a first-round pick, but it's 25th overall. So what do you think of the return itself for Ullmark, and could the Bruins have done maybe a little bit better if they waited a little longer?
No, they couldn't have done better. And the longer they wait, the less the less they were going to get. There's no question about that. Look at the Markstrom deal that just happened. He was the first one. Jacob Markstrom, Calgary to the New Jersey Devils for a late round, first round pick, and top 6 defenseman, Kevin Ball. So that's what the market is. So anyone who, I was dying laughing a week ago when I was seeing some of these reports. Oh, the Bruins are going to be able to move into the top 10 for Linus Ullmark. It was absolutely priceless to think that would ever happen. No goalie has ever been drafted or traded for a top 10 pick in the National Hockey League. So I think the people complaining about what they got back are the people that didn't really have their expectations set or weren't really paying attention to what the market has been this year, especially with recency bias just a week ago, a great goaltender getting traded. And on top of the Markstrom is the term. Markstrom had 2 years. This is essentially a rental call by the Ottawa Senators. It had Linus Ullmark signed a 5-year extension with Ottawa going into this, then yeah, you're probably going to get a lot more back. But the fact that he's essentially a rental player, he's an unrestricted free agent at the end of this season, Ottawa's rolling the dice on him just as much.
Yeah, I love you point that out. Now, if Linus doesn't end up signing an extension with the Senators, then this could be a fleece by the Bruins. Razor, you did touch on it with Jonas Korpisalo behind a terrible team in Ottawa. Awful situation, had it down here. What do you see happening to him in Boston when goalie Bob gets his hands on him? And, of course, playing in front behind a much better blue line and, of course, the forwards in front of him as well.
And he is not the guy. This is Jeremy Swayman's team. This is the Jeremy Swayman show now. So he's going to play once every 6-7 days, where this past season was once every 2 or 3 days on a bad team where you give up 5 and then you got to jump back in there. Then a couple nights later and you give up 5 again. And the snowball gets bad and ugly quick. So I think he has an opportunity to rejuvenate himself and reset himself with this organization. And I don't think goalie coaches always have ideas and have seen video and want to fix and help and work on some things. But I think just the culture of the Bruins, the defensive style they play, and the fact that Korpisalo isn't the guy, he'll be able to work himself in. And it'll be very similar from the way I look at it as a Jaro Halak to a Tuukka Rask.
The Bruins had such a unique situation with those two goaltenders playing at an elite level in Linus Ullmark and Jeremy Swayman. You mentioned Ullmark, the Vezina Trophy winner. He came in with a good contract, and Jeremy Swayman a little bit younger. But at the end of the day, Razor, why do you think the Bruins essentially chose Swayman over Ullmark?
Well, it was the playoff runs completely solidifies it. It had the Bruins lost in the first round in 6 games and both guys went 1-2, you might see them roll it back one more time and really try and get an idea. But it all came down to the way Jeremy Swayman played in the playoffs and his character, his confidence, the way he deals with media, just all the things that you look for in a starting goaltender in the National Hockey League. He has now proven it in the biggest and brightest of lights against now what is a Stanley Cup playoff or Stanley Cup champion. So I think it solidified itself in the playoffs.
If I could follow up with one thing, George, I'm sorry, just with Jeremy Swayman and the workload now that he faces, right? And I think that was a question mark in the playoffs. Could he handle every day? And now you're looking at a regular season where he's going to take the bulk of the reps. He's going to play the bulk of the games. He's going to be between the pipes for the bulk of the starts. How do we? Is there still more we need to learn about Swayman in terms of handling a regular season load?
Well, no, I think it's again. I don't think it's not going to be 65. It's not going to be Vasilevsky. That's why you get Korpisalo, so you don't have to lean on him that way. Now it's 50-32, right? It's the Tuukka Rask, Jaro Halak, Tuukka Rask, Tim Thomas. It's 50-32. You have the starting guy. You have the guy who plays Saturday night against Toronto and Saturday night against Florida and plays those big games. But you have the other guy who goes and finds 20 wins in a season or 17 wins in a season, and that's what Korpisalo does. So that's the other thing to this piece is that, again, the Bruins, from the way I see it, I don't think they were going to go with an untrained backup goaltender and have Jeremy Swayman play 62 games and the other guy play 20. I don't see that happening this season, and that's the Korpisalo thing.
And a reminder, too, of course, the Senators holding on to 25% of Korpisalo's salary, so that's going to be about $1 million a year. The Bruins gained some cap space in this deal, got a backup goalie, like you said, under an extension. Razor, what do you see them focusing on next to improve this team through free agency and the offseason?
Yeah, they got $24 million. That's the other thing to all this. I've seen that a little bit. Oh, they save some more money on the salary. They've got more than enough money to fix, to improve this roster this week. You're not going out and signing Leon Draisaitl or Connor McDavid to a $15 million deal. There's none of those guys out there. So you have $24 million. You need 2 forwards, 2 top 6, preferably forwards, definitely one top liner. And then you're probably looking to chip off on a defenseman as well. The D has been set. Lowry, the way he played, that's a left side guy. But if you could get another left side guy underneath that $24 million, then I think Don does that. So, but the real focus now was getting rid of Linus Ullmark and moving from that and having an idea of what was going on in the goalie crease and where the numbers were at and what they could do. And now you I think they really start to look to address the forward position.
Florida Panthers are Stanley Cup champions, Razor. Don't want to get into the Cup series with you. George and I will handle that a little bit later. But I do want to ask you about where the Bruins stack up, because I think, people were looking at the playoff series against the Panthers. There's a little bit of disappointment there, obviously losing in that round. But then to see the Panthers, stomp on the Rangers and then win the Cup, are the Bruins close?
Yeah, of course. They've, again, top flight goaltending. We saw that. They have the playoff goaltending you need, Stanley Cup goaltending you need. You've got Charlie McAvoy, you've got David Pastrnak, you've got Brad Marchand. You have all the pieces and a core that are there for a run. And now, like Florida did in this offseason, they changed over 7 guys from a team that went to the Stanley Cup Finals, and they loaded up on the back end, and they got bigger, and they got stronger, and they got more depth up front. They played 14, 15 forwards throughout the entire Stanley Cup playoffs. So there's an opportunity for the Bruins to continue to build their team, and if they're not completely close to this second, they certainly have eyes set on being close come next April. This isn't a team that's taken a step back by any means.
And Razor, I'll end on this one. Sergei Bobrovsky, a long time in the league, 2-time Vezina winner, now finally gets that Stanley Cup to his name. Where does this put him in the history of great goaltenders that have played in the NHL?
Well, like history, it might be tough, but he's probably a Hall of Famer now. He's going to end up over 400 wins, 2 Vezinas. Like he's there. I don't consider him historic by, when we're talking about Patrick Waugh and Marty Brodeur or Kendrick, though that's a different historic number, but he's certainly made himself a Hall of Famer.
I like it. He gets the yes from Razor on the Hall of Fame ballot. Razor, thanks for taking the time out of your busy day to join Boston has ended the chat. We appreciate you, my friend. Thank you.
You got it, gentlemen. It's a blast.
Bye, Razor.
Bye.
Awesome by Razor for joining us. And Adam, Linus Ullmark posting this to his Instagram. Thank you to all the wonderful teammates, coaches, trainers, workers, chefs, management, Bull Gang, most of all you Bruins fans. The memories I've accumulated during my stay in Boston are too many to count, and I will always cherish the friendships and bonds you've helped create. You guys will always have a special place in my heart and in my family's heart. And Adam, we don't have it there if you're watching this on YouTube. He said some of his favorite highlights during his time in Boston, hearing Sweet Caroline being sang by all the fans at the Winter Classic at Fenway, Bergie's 1,000th point, Marchand's 1,000th game, Pasta getting 60-plus goals. Here's where it gets good. Christmas toy shopping for the Children's Hospital, Halloween dress-up combined with hospital visits, Swainta, and celebrating 100 years of Bruins hockey. Onwards towards new adventures in hockey and in life. Sincerely, Linus Ullmark. You see in that short post how much Boston meant to Linus in his short time here. A guy that won a Vezina, a guy that led this team, him and Jeremy Swayman. Adam, you had the pleasure of really getting to know him with your rink side and pre and post game, obviously for NESN. What was Linus like as a person, away from the ice and someone to interact with, and just someone that you worked closely with, of course, in the reporter to player role?
He was all in, on and off the ice. Boston is where he became one of the top goaltenders in the National Hockey League. And one thing about Linus is that he was always accountable when he didn't have a good game. And when he did have a good game, he always talked about his teammates and how well they played in front of him. And that fits perfectly into the room with the Bruins. And he and Jeremy Swayman, of course, developed a special relationship, really a very unique relationship. You do not see goaltenders have this sort of relationship outwardly for each other, celebrating each other's victories, the goalie hug at the end of the game. It was just special, and they accomplished a lot together. And Linus, as you mentioned, accomplishing a lot individually, winning the Vezina Trophy, having an outstanding season. And also, the fact that he supported Jeremy Swayman through the entire Bruins playoff run this year. There was a question, of course, what the rotation would be, if there would be a rotation going into the postseason. He only played the one game in Game 2. They ended up losing that game. Jeremy Swayman comes back and he plays the rest of the way, but you never heard Linus complain. in front of the cameras or off camera. Never heard a peep about it. And he was always 100% supportive of Jeremy Swayman. And that shows just what kind of person he is.
Yeah, I think he points out Swainta. He points out visiting the Children's Hospital. You talk about the culture, and that was something that was built up by Chara, Bergeron, carried on by Marchand, of course. David Krejci built it up. You saw it looks like Linus really embraced it when he was here in Boston as a Bruin.
Yeah, absolutely. There's no question about it. You need to buy in when you're a Bruin. You need to understand that it's more about what you do. It's just as much about what you do on the ice as what you do off the ice. And had a good time covering Linus. And, there was one situation in particular where I got to interview him after the game. It was a walk-off interview, and man, the dude is 6'5" in sneakers, and so he's like almost 7 feet in skates, and so I had to get on my tiptoes because I was like, you know what, man, the height discrepancy is just too much here. And he's like, he actually offered to like take a knee. I had said here he offered to sit down. He actually offered to take a knee, and I said, "No, man, you just played 60 minutes. You're not going to take a knee to do a post game interview. I'll get on my tiptoes and and get those calves working for our 60-second interview." So that was a fun moment between he and I. And there was another fun moment. It was a walk off. It was the last game before the All-Star break, talking about going to the Bahamas with his family. And so, he is a good guy to have in the room. He was well liked by his teammates. He'll definitely be missed by his teammates, Bruins organization, and of course the fans.
Yeah, we'll see what happens with him in Ottawa. He is a pending free agent after next season. Upcoming, maybe gets an extension there. We know how important it is to be close to his family over in Europe. He wants to stay on the East Coast. That was just a great caption to read from Linus Ullmark. You see how much Boston meant to him. You said it to Jeremy Swayman. My advice to you, Adam, and as someone that's 5'6" and has covered the bean pot, I keep an Apple box on me for hockey games. The secret of TV. And the players will come out and laugh, and I go, I'm 5'6". What am I going to do? They'll chirp me a little, then feel bad. I'm like, dude, I'm short. It's all good. You guys are.
See, that's why. I was just going to say, that's why I love when Pasta comes out for his intermission interviews. He takes off his skates, and we're looking at each other eye to eye, which I can get down with the 5'11" eye to eye thing. But when it comes to Linus Ullmark, 6'5", on skates, 7 feet. No, it's no good. But yeah, it's good advice. You carry a little Apple box with you. Let's see if I can fit that in the suitcase.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. You got to check it in when you're taking flights wherever the Bruins season takes you. All right, so moving on from Linus, we mentioned it with Razor. Panthers are finally Stanley Cup champions. Hold off the Oilers to win it in 7. We want to show first this video of this celebration going down in Florida. Matthew Tkachuk and what looks like Sam Bennett, I'm not 100% sure, literally drowning a human being in beer, launched out of the Stanley Cup.
In the face. In the face.
Literally, that's a perfect way to put it. Dude, shout out the accuracy on this one. I love post-Stanley Cup celebrations, taking the trophy where you can, and the Panthers doing it all of being in Florida and celebrating with the Cup.
Dude, that's the elbow room in Fort Lauderdale. That's the spot, man. Those guys are partying it up, and that's awesome. It is pretty cool. I mean, honestly, I'm not going to sit here and say that I'm excited that the Panthers won the Stanley Cup. Definitely not. But it is cool to see a group of guys, an organization, all of these teams put in so much effort, 365, not just during the season, but all the work that goes into getting a team prepared for a season and the grind of 82 plus however many games they ended up playing in the postseason, and to celebrate in this way is a pretty cool thing. It's cool to see the celebration, and it also is cool to see the fans who supported the teams throughout the year and in tough times too, right? This is a Panthers organization that was not good for a very long time and finally made it to the Cup final last year and then able to rebound and win this year. It's something special for that fan base.
I just love that celebration at the elbow room. It looks like some crappy motel somewhere in Florida. But I just looked up, never been to Fort Lauderdale. Beach bar, I'm there. And you're right.
Yeah.
Like, that's what makes it great. The fans that were there that celebrate with you, like, they literally get to drink from the trophy, touch it, depending where they took it. Tkachuk, there's a video of him too, literally going into the ocean with the Stanley Cup. If you have your days with it and you're going to celebrate and you're going to ride this high of finally winning it, do it the right way and do it like that, right? Like, whatever the hell you want to do with it, just don't break it or lose it in the ocean. I just love seeing the Panthers celebration going down, what they've been doing with it.
Yeah, that's a good idea. I wonder if that's happened before. I mean, the Lightning, of course, they won their share of cups. I wonder if they'd taken it into the ocean. I never heard of that one before. So that's good on Matthew Tkachuk to take the celebration to new heights and a different level of celebration. So that's pretty cool.
As long as it stays out of the bottom of a pool too, I can only imagine the cup handler, the anxiety he's feeling. Were you upset the Oilers couldn't complete the comeback though? Because it was Edmonton going for it, and the entire nation of Canada wanted to see the cup return for the first time in 30 years.
Yeah, like I said, I wasn't excited that the Panthers won the Stanley Cup, and I wanted to see the comeback. I wanted to see history. I mean, it had only happened once in NHL history, all the way back in 1942, and it was only the third time in NHL history that a team had tied a series in the Stanley Cup final, being down 3-0. So, yeah, I was hoping that they would do it. And, I called the Oilers in 7 before I actually was doing the show with you, George. It was you and I think you called Panthers in 6.
Yep.
I had said Oilers in 7 because I believed in Connor McDavid, who, by the way, did end up winning the Conn Smythe, which I thought he was going to, but I didn't think it would happen in this way. But in terms of how the series played out, with the Panthers being up 3-0, I really thought that the series took a little bit of a turn in Game 3, third period, with the Panthers up 4-1, and the Oilers able to score twice in that third period. They end up losing that game, but they were really able to carry that momentum over into Game 4. Of course, they blow them out in Game 4. They win Game 5, and then you're looking at a Game 6 in Edmonton, and I was thinking about the mental aspect of that for the Panthers, right? They lose that game in Florida, that Game 5, where they're thinking they're going to be celebrating after that game, right? All the fans are amped up, and then they end up losing that game, and they got to go and make the 2,500-mile trek all the way back to Edmonton, play the Game 6. They lose that game almost predictably. I just, trying to overcome that, man, it must have been just like mentally tough. But then, when it comes to Game 7s, as you know, George, all bets are off. It's anybody's guess. It's a coin flip. And that's exactly what this game was. That's exactly what it turned out to be. That early penalty, committed by the Oilers, put the Panthers on the power play. It wasn't technically a power play goal, but it came just as the power play had expired. And, the Panthers able to jump out to the early lead, and then they really started to play their style of hockey, a low-scoring game, with the exception of that breakaway goal. The Panthers... It was a good Game 7. It was an entertaining Game 7, I thought. At least it wasn't a blowout either way. I'll say that, a 2-1 game. And, it had you gripped right to the very end.
Yeah, I was trapped in the Toronto airport dealing with flight cancellations and delays and staff shortages and everything. But being in an airport, a lot of Oilers jerseys everywhere. We found the one bar that was piping in the game noise. The celebration, the Oilers fans, and it was just random Canadians, I think, too. I don't know who they were rooting for. With the goal that the Oilers did score, as short-lived as that high was still a cool feat to see. But also for the Panthers to break through. And to me, this was a team that came close last year, was so banged up by the time they got to the final, lost to a great Vegas team. To make it back and to run through the playoffs, long series, battles, but beating the Bruins and Jeremy Swayman, who's excellent, beating the Rangers and Igor Shesterkin, who is excellent, and then doing this to Edmonton, too. What they've done all postseason, all season long, they play their game. You said it. They jumped out to that lead. They play their game. They want to play dirty. They want to beat you up. They want to play along the boards. They want to just put the puck in deep, forecheck, and just cause chaos and never let you get comfortable with any breakouts. They slowed down the fastest team in the NHL, and Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl. It took McDavid out of it the last 2 games, and I think that's what was so excellent about them and their performance. And you see a guy like Sergei Bobrovsky finally get his cup. You see Paul Maurice lift it up, kiss it, and you saw the moment he lifts it above his head and just closed his eyes and soaked in that moment. A coach that's been around so long. He coached the Whalers. Yeah, I didn't want to see the Panthers. Yes, I thought they'd win it. I didn't want to see them win it. I wanted McDavid, the greatest player in the league, to get it. But it was awesome how it went down. And it was an entertaining championship series. To go up 3-0, push it to 7. I thought this was a great Stanley Cup final. It was cool to see the Panthers win. I would have rather seen Canada break through, though.
Yeah, the drought continues, right? 31 years. But you make great points a number of different ways in the Panthers' style of play. But one aspect of their game that they really improved from last season, even though they made the Cup final, was their defense. They were tied for first in goals allowed this year per game after being 21st in the league last year. So that was a big aspect of their game that they changed going into this year. And I was thinking about it too. It's like last year, they sort of slid into the postseason in the last game or two of the year. And then this year, they kind of slid into the Atlantic Division title in the last game or two, right? It came down to the final game. And so it's 2 years in a row where they're playing for something going into the postseason. And I think that, helps a team, right? When you're sort of sitting back and you don't have anything to play for at the end of the regular season, you kind of, it takes you a while to sort of get warmed up, but they went and hit the ground running in the postseason. But, one of the stats too that really stood out about the Panthers this season, 44-0-3 when leading after two periods. That's an incredible stat. And under Paul Maurice, 85-2-6. I mean, those are incredible numbers. And, again, a big reason for their success is the fact that, man, once these teams are down, they have a really hard time coming back against the Panthers. And that's Paul Maurice. Part of that is how this team was built, of course. Their physicality, some of the points that you mentioned about the forecheck, not letting teams breathe. We saw that. We saw that against a very good Bruins team. And we saw that against the Rangers, the President's Trophy winners, who, again, were a very talented bunch, but they just got worn out. And despite the fact that Igor Shesterkin, as you mentioned, played very well, hearing Andrew Raycroft, who we had on the show earlier, talking about Shesterkin on their Morning Brew podcast, said that he was the best goaltender in the postseason this year, he and Jeremy Swayman. But Shesterkin's guys in front of him let him down. And part of that is what the Panthers are able to do. They're just able to wear teams down. And you know what? You talk about the Oilers' speed. We did see it on display. We did. There was a crack in the armor for the Panthers because this Oilers team is very talented offensively. They have the best player in the world on their team, and they were able to figure things out. But at the end of the day, the Panthers were able to regroup, get to their game. They had solid goaltending from Sergei Bobrovsky, and they end up winning the thing.
Do you think the Oilers can break through and win it next year? You think they make another run towards a cup? Or do you think it's a lot to get back there? Especially this was a team, think of everything falling together, obviously with McDavid and Draisaitl, but the older guys and getting by with Stuart Skinner, a lot had to go right for this Oilers team that went all in for the cup.
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, I think it was the Penguins in 2009, if I'm not mistaken, who were the last team to lose the cup and then come back the next year and win the cup. I'd have to look that up, but I think that is the team that was able to do that. It doesn't happen very often where a team is able to come back, lose after losing, and then win the following year. I mean, the Western Conference is tough. You look at some of the teams that they have to get past if they want to do that. The Colorado Avalanche, the Dallas Stars, the Vancouver Canucks. I mean, those are really good teams who are coming back with their big stars next year. And, with the Oilers, the big question mark, is Leon Draisaitl's future because he does have a year left on his contract. But, if he's not going to re-sign with the Oilers, you could be talking about maybe trading him this offseason. I don't think that's going to happen. I think they want to keep McDavid and Draisaitl together because, not having both of them because McDavid, is his contract expiration date is on the horizon in a couple of years, I believe. And so they don't want to live in a world where those two players are not, playing for the Oil. So, I think it's going to be really tough for them to get back there because of some of the teams, because in the Western Conference, because if you look at the Stanley Cup odds right now, I believe that the Avalanche have the best odds to out of all the teams in the Western Conference to win the Stanley Cup right now. So it's not going to be easy. I'm not sure if they can do that.
Yeah, Draisaitl, 1 year left. McDavid, 2 years left on his deal. Think of Darnell Nurse, he's 29. Nugent Hopkins, 31. Hyman and Kane, 32. Ekholm, 34. A lot of these key contributors on the opposite end of 30. Of course, McDavid and Draisaitl haven't gotten there yet. And Skinner was great when it got to Game 4 and beyond in the playoffs. 1 through 3, not so much. But if you get a real goalie there in Edmonton, that could change a lot about this team. It's just tough to see with this roster that clicked and got contributions from their top 4 lines, all their forwards, and defensively getting it done as well. And McDavid, who recreated his game, 100 assists, complete 200-foot game, and what he played, if they could do it again, it would be cool, but we will see. Tough one, though, on the broadcast last night. You see missed Alexander Barkov hoisting the cup for the first time after he gets it. They missed Paul Maurice kissing the cup when he lifted it up. Look, we work at RSN. I don't want to throw any rocks at a director working a board out there. It's a lot going on, a lot of cameras. But it was tough of ESPN is going to catch flack of missing all these key moments in a Stanley Cup final and championship celebration.
Yeah, that's tough. I feel bad. Like, again, you mentioned we work on a regional sports network. We work in this business. We worked in it for a while. We understand that the mistakes happen. They're just magnified when they're on a stage like this, right? You know, those types of mistakes happen all the time with, missing a shot here or cutting a wrong camera here or the audio goes out here. That type of thing happens. But when it happens in the Stanley Cup final, or the one key moment that you want to make sure that you capture and you don't capture it, you get the criticism. You deserve the criticism. I'm sure there are many conversations over there at the network today about what happened. You try to learn from it, just like anything else, right? We talk about sports and learning from mistakes and learning from experiences. The same thing is happening in broadcast, and it's happening at ESPN in this particular case. Spoken
like a true vet of the industry. Finally, you see Connor McDavid with the Conn Smythe Trophy just not accepting it. I don't blame him because you saw him. Those were, speaking of good directing, the cutaways once that final moment happened to Connor McDavid on the bench, dropping his head just in disbelief. They came so close and didn't get it. Didn't score a point in Game 6 or Game 7. Won the Conn Smythe because of the amount of assists he had, obviously pushing that team to take that series to 7. I don't blame him for not even wanting to go out there and accept the trophy, though, because you're also going to look at the other team winning the Stanley Cup. The Conn Smythe can be won by a losing player, compared to the NBA Finals MVP. Jerry West is the only one to win it and not win the whole thing. That trophy, you would look at it. If you won it, you accept it, you bring it home after coming so close and falling short. I wouldn't even want it in my house, to be honest. I wouldn't know what to do with it.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. I mean, it's a great individual accomplishment. It speaks to the special type of player he is, to not only, win the Conn Smythe, but to win the thing when your team loses the Stanley Cup final. I don't blame him for not coming out. I think part of that is the fact that, it's the Panthers celebration, right? Like, this is about the Panthers winning the Stanley Cup, and for, him to come out there, accept the award, wave, what's he going to do? Waves the crowd. It's just not the right moment. It's such a unique situation, and it would be an awkward situation for him to come out there. But, I don't know why he's receiving criticism for this.
Yeah.
He shouldn't be receiving criticism for this. I mean, he was out there on the ice. He went through the handshake line with the Panthers. Point was made that he waited for each of his teammates to go off of the ice, shaking their hands before he left the ice himself. That's leadership. That is something I would rather focus on instead of him not coming out for the second place trophy, essentially.
Yeah, maybe if it was at Edmonton Game 7, it would sting even more losing it at home. But you give a salute to the fans if you take the trophy. But you're right. Panthers won it on their ice. It's their moment. The focus should be on how he treated his teammates, how he treated the opponent, which he did great. And he said after, too, he goes, I didn't accept the award out there. It is an honor because of the other names on that trophy. But you can't blame a guy for coming so close, being so damn good, carrying the weight of a nation in Canada on him. He is Canadian. He plays for Edmonton. And coming up short for winning the Stanley Cup in a very close game. I don't blame him for not wanting to accept the award. Any criticism he gets, no, it's just a wash at that point. Put yourself in those shoes. You wouldn't want it either. It's just people able to do it from 10,000 feet up and able to do it on social media because it's not up close and personal, and they probably can't put themselves in that situation. There were some fan reactions. Pull up the tweets here to McDavid not accepting the trophy. This one, Connor McDavid. Yeah, I don't blame him. Maybe I would do the same. I would say put my name on it. I would go to the NHL, keep it. I don't want the Conn Smythe.
Yeah, I know. You can't. I mean, again, like I just think about like the accomplishment, right? Because it's not a Stanley Cup. It's not an award for the best player in the Stanley Cup final. It's the best
it's a whole playoff.
Award. Exactly. And, and his team got there. It's not worth nothing, right? That's
true.
That's what I would say. But on the other hand, it's a reminder that you didn't win. It's a reminder that you didn't win the thing. So I get it.
How about this one? Sam Reinert's agent after 67-goal season, game winner in Game 7, winning the Stanley Cup final. Yeah, it's perfect. He's going to fall asleep on a fat bet of money hitting free agency this offseason.
Yeah, he sure is one of the top free agent names out there. I mean, I have a hard time believing that he's going to sign anywhere else but Florida. I mean, somebody would really have to offer the bag for this guy to leave, but I can't imagine the Panthers letting this happen in any way, shape, or form. The guy is just too important. And again, scoring in Game 7, having the game-winning goal. I mean, you can't let that guy walk.
It's you talk about moments when Reiner nails and nets that game winner. It's like at least I love that moment of the best player on a championship team scoring that game-winning goal. And if you're an Edmonton Oilers fan, you're going to feel like crap no matter what. At least it's their best against your best. It's not some whatever fourth liner guy pulling through. Then this one, Connor McDavid in Game 7. We got to get close on this one. Well, but when the world needed him most, he vanished. Now we're getting mean here.
Ouch.
But he didn't score in Game 6 and Game 7. I think that's part of it, too, on why he felt so bad and probably why he didn't want to accept that trophy of, yeah, sure, I was great all playoffs, but there's 2 games that matter the most. There's 1 game that mattered the most. I didn't show up for that one.
Yeah, I guess I understand. When you're the best player, you got to be held accountable. I get that. But at the same time, like the fact that they were able to come back down 3-0, I mean, they don't do it without him. You know, they don't do that. I mean, 8 points in 2 games. I mean, that's just silly. I mean, it's ridiculous. But I get it, right? He's the captain of the team. He's the best player of the world. If you're going to take the accolades, you got to take, the heat a little bit too. But yeah, man, that's brutal. That is so brutal. Oh man.
And finally, classic picture. Matthew Tkachuk, Jason Tatum. Dude in the blue is a Stanley Cup champ. Dude in the orange is an NBA champ. Is one of the craziest pictures ever. Just going back to their middle school, high school days, hanging out in St. Louis. See both of them now winning a ring the same year. I'm just happy we could put to bed the storyline. Did you know Matthew Tkachuk and Jason Tatum went to school together? Now they did it. They won it. Let's put that storyline to bed. Cool moment, but I'm over it.
Yeah, you know what it is though. What is interesting is the fact that not only these 2 guys win titles this year, but these 2 guys also experienced losing in a final round as well, right? And both guys talked about needing to do that before being able to win the thing. So not only the parallel that they're both from St. Louis and they both won titles in the same year, both of those guys said the same type of thing, experiencing the losing part first and then getting to win the thing. So that part of it is pretty cool. Important
to get there. If you lose, you at least learn from it and get better. Like you said, Adam, we learned that from both the NBA and NHL title winners. All right, let's get into and wrap this up with a little bit of what's trending. Marcus Smart spoke about the Celtics championship win. Here's some quotes from his article. He said, "I know everybody's expecting me to be up here and be salty and crap." Expletive there. "There are no hard feelings from me." He still admitted feeling a range of emotions. This is the one that got me at him. "It's definitely a bittersweet feeling. It's definitely tough because, like I said, I was in the trenches with them. So to not be able to finish what you started with those guys is definitely tough. My wife will tell you I was screaming for those guys when they won it just as much as anybody else because, like I said, I have love for those guys. I know the work they put in. I've been through it." Good for Marcus Smart to celebrate that title, and he should. But you got to imagine he's sitting there on that couch going, damn it.
Yeah.
Damn it.
Yeah, I know. I mean, how else could you feel, right? I mean, you can feel happy you can feel both things can be true, right? You can feel both emotions at the same time. The fact that, he feels happy for his guys, but at the same time, like, it's like really like, and he'll never admit it, but it's like, well, you know what, maybe they won because you weren't there, but that's part of the reason. And you got a guy in Drew Holiday, who's a proven winner coming into the fold, being a true point guard. I mean, you could see the difference. So I get what Marcus Smart is saying at this, and I also will say this: his response on that podcast was very classy. He handled it with all class, no question about that.
Yeah, and this is a guy that obviously saw the Jays grow up as when they were drafted in here too. Saw the changes in the roster. Derek White being brought in as a key player who played alongside Marcus Smart in big moments in the playoffs. It is what it is. It's part of the business too. And this is a Celtics team. I don't think they break through and win that title if Marcus Smart is still on the roster. He was crucial in getting Kristaps Porzingis to Boston. The deals that were made as well, crucial in getting Drew Holiday to Boston as well. Remember, they first wanted to trade Malcolm Brogdon to get Porzingis, but it was shot down because of some red flags with his injury and his health history and his health profile, obviously. So then Grizzlies picked up the phone and said, we want Marcus Smart. Brad Stevens did what he had to. And then later Brogdon was dealt to get Drew Holiday. But this was a roster with Marcus Smart on it. Yeah, he was a heart and soul of the team. Yeah, he brought toughness, but they were still soft in the big moments and didn't execute in the big moments with him on it, with him without, not on the roster. They pulled through and win the title. But this is still a city. Polarizing player. That's Marcus Smart. Fans either love him or they can't stand him. But maybe the Jays and maybe this roster wouldn't be where they were maturity-wise if it wasn't for Marcus Smart helping to mentor them. But I do love seeing him, of course, I expect him to take the high road. He's happy for the players. He's happy for his teammates. He was around and saw them grow. To be ecstatic for them to break through and win a ring because he knows what they've been through of coming up close, falling short, how tough it is to play in Boston with the media, with the expectations, and then finally breaking through. We saw it. The relief on Jason Tatum's face, the relief you saw from Jaylen Brown, for all the criticism they get, they're not even 30 yet, and to get their first ring, you saw it there, and that's what it's like pressure-wise and everything to be playing in Boston. So Marcus Smart knows it means that much more to win it in this city, and it means that much more to win it after everything they've been through.
Yeah, no question about it. I mean, he was drafted by the Celtics with a high pick back in 2014, 6th overall. He developed here. He got better here, won Defensive Player of the Year here, got to an NBA Finals here, got to a couple conference finals here as well, but they just couldn't get over the top. And you mentioned it, those trades were the key in getting the Celtics over the top, along with the maturation of Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. But I don't know if they would have won without Marcus Smart. And so while it stinks for him, it's great for the Celtics fan base and the organization. So, we'll see what happens with Marcus Smart in Memphis moving forward. Maybe he can find success down the road.
Quick one we'll end with Hallmark partnering with the NFL and Chiefs to make a football-inspired Christmas movie, Adam. Holiday Touchdown, a Chiefs love story, set to air during the 15th annual Countdown to Christmas. I don't care about the rest. I don't watch Hallmark movies. If you had to give the title to a Patriots Hallmark movie, based on the Patriots taking place in New England, I don't know. I don't know how Hallmark goes. What would you title the movie?
Yeah, so I know he's not on the team anymore, but his legacy will last forever. So I will say A Very Brady Christmas.
Yeah.
And there was actually a Very Brady Christmas movie back in the day in the late 80s where the Brady kids were all grown up. They had all their kids, and it was a made-for-TV movie. But instead, you can have the classic Brady Bunch look with the mom, the dad, the housekeeper, and the 6 kids, and just put like different faces on it, right? Like Mike Brady could be Bill Belichick, or Mrs. Brady could be somebody else, or you got Greg Brady who could be Tom Brady. So there's ways to do that. So that would be my title, A Very Brady Christmas.
I like that. I'm just thinking Bill Belichick and the Grinch. So when Bill stole Christmas, that's what I'm going with.
Yeah.
I don't know if that falls under Hall. I don't watch him, dude. Like I don't care.
No, there's
about
plenty
Hallmark.
of movies out there. There's enough over the course of the season. I don't need to watch some movie with no names. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Like there's literally no actor that I've ever heard of in any single Hallmark movie.
Yeah, you're like, oh, that guy's in it. Yeah, exactly. I would hope they'd cast you as an extra. If a Hallmark movie, last one I'll end with, Adam, was created, directed, written, based off you around the holidays, who's playing Adam? Who's playing Adam Pellerin?
All right, so I guess I got to go with a guy who people thought I looked like in high school which led to my screen name for AOL.
Wow,
This is how far back
this.
it goes. AOL chat. It was my chat name was Pellerin19, and there was a show called Melrose Place. It was starring Andrew Shue, and people thought I looked like Andrew Shue, who's Elizabeth Shue's brother, and he was a star on the show Melrose Place. So maybe Andrew Shue.
Perfect. For me, someone, same, I get mistaken with all the time, Chris Hemsworth. He'd play me in any movie about my life. Same height, same stature, same flowing long hair. Yeah, me and Chris Hemsworth. It happens all the time. I'm mistaken for him. You see
Yeah,
it.
I can see that. You're both humans.
That's why you're speechless right now. For the first time, no comment from Adam Pellerin because he knows that Chris Hemsworth comp is so spot on. Hey, this was Boston's Enter the Chat for George Balekji. Adam Pellerin, thanks so much for joining the chat. We'll see you guys same time, same place. Tune in wherever you get your podcast. We'll see you guys next time. Have a good one. Later.